For more content like this, please push like and subscribe. Today we are talking about Sehnsucht, or finding eternity in the human heart. Did you know that the health department of New York City has on record more than 23,000 restaurants? That means that if you ate at each restaurant one time, it would take you more than 54 years to eat at them all. How about this? iTunes offers more than 100 million songs, meaning that if you listen to every song back to back in a whole lifetime, you would not make it through all of them. The Library of Congress has cataloged more than 39 million books, much more than a lifetime's worth of reading. The Smithsonian, which consists of 19 museums and 8 research facilities, currently has 2,780,000 items on display. If you could freeze the Smithsonian in time and spend only 14 minutes looking at each item, you would not be able to see them all in a lifetime. However, if you were to spend only 1 minute at each piece, that would definitely allow you to see more. So let's expand the scope. The nearly 3 million items on the exhibit represent only 2% of what the Smithsonian has to offer. And so if you spent just 1 minute on each, or even 17 seconds on each, you would eventually get through what is currently on display if you never stopped and they never added another item. Why do I tell you all of this? To make a simple point. There isn't enough time. There simply isn't enough time to do life justice, to see all the sights, to enjoy all the smells and sights and sounds that God has created. We can easily see this, and yet so far I've mentioned only trivial matters. We haven't even touched on important matters, like how much time would it take to adequately give your children the time they deserve? If time were no limit, which friends would you like to get to know better? If time never ran out, which additional hobby or pursuit of study would you take up? If time were not slipping by so quickly, where on earth would you like to explore? One of the arguments that C.S. Lewis made in his case for eternity in heaven was the argument of time. In this life, there simply isn't enough time to complete much of anything. There thus must be eternity in heaven awaiting us. The book of Ecclesiastes says God has hidden eternity in the heart of humankind. Now that argument, I admit, would probably not convince the skeptic or unbeliever, but it seems deeply satisfying for one who believes. But there is still a more convincing argument that C.S. Lewis makes for heaven and eternity. The second argument has a lot to do with Isaiah's invitation to come and feast at a banquet where you'll find food to satisfy and drink to quench your thirst. In the song, I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For, the song by the musical group U2. It is their second track from their 1987 album, Joshua Tree, and it was released as the album's second single in May of 1987. The song became wildly popular and has been called one of the greatest songs of all time by one of rock's greatest critics. Like all great music, the song I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For was and is so popular because it touches on something deep in the human soul. The song reflects the influence of gospel music, and the lyrics describe a spiritual yearning that every human heart knows. It is what the German people call Sehnsucht. C.S. Lewis describes Sehnsucht as that inconsolable longing in the human heart for we know not what, that unnameable something which we each desire. One website gives this description of Sehnsucht. It is something felt as a longing for a far-off country, but not a particular earthly land which we can identify. Furthermore, there is something in the experience which suggests this far-off country is very familiar and indicative of what we might otherwise call home. In this sense, it is a type of nostalgia in the original sense of the word. At other times, Sehnsucht may seem as a longing for someone or something, but the majority of people who experience it are not conscious of what or who they long for. Indeed, the longing is such profound and intense longing that the subject may immediately only be aware of the emotion itself and not cognizant that there is something being longed for. Here is the observation and argument that C.S. Lewis makes. For every innate need we have, there is something in real nature that corresponds with that need. For example, we all have an innate need for food. That is, we all feel hunger. And behold, there is such thing as food, which corresponds to that innate need expressed in hunger. Humankind has an innate need for drink, and behold, there's water, which corresponds to that need. People feel sexual longings, and behold, there is something called sex. For each innate need, there exists in nature something real that corresponds to that felt need. Well, continues Lewis, there exists in each person a felt need for something or someone or some place which cannot be found or realized in this world. So, if every other innate need has something which corresponds to that need, then there must be something or someone real that corresponds to that innate need, the Sehnsucht. This something is this someone, this homeland is described by the Bible and is what we usually refer to as God. Here are two passages from the book of Hebrews that describe this longing. And even when Abraham reached the land God promised him, he lived there by faith, for he was like a foreigner living in tents. And so did Isaac and Jacob, who had inherited the same promise. Abraham was confidently looking forward to a city with eternal foundations, a city designed and built by God. The second passage reads, if they had longed for the country they came from, then they would have gone back. But they were looking for a better place, a heavenly homeland. That is why God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. Now, some of you may object to this argument by noting that not all felt needs have something real to which they correspond. Some may feel the need to fly or to own a pet unicorn, or they may feel the need to own a solid gold car. This is where careful thinking and distinction must be made. We have different kinds of felt needs. Some needs are what we call learned needs. When a new ad on Amazon or YouTube or Facebook describes something you didn't even know existed, but now you feel a need for it, that is what we call a learned need. And it is the kind of need that advertisers get paid to create. Another kind of felt need is an imaginary need. An example of this would be the felt need to fly like Superman. This type of need is something that comes from the imagination and does not usually correspond with something real. Then there are individual needs, which vary from person to person, such as the need to live in one place all one's life, or the need to travel. These are highly particular to the individual. But then there are innate needs. Something which is innate is something which is common to the whole universal race, the whole human race, something inborn and universal. Innate needs versus learned needs or imaginary needs or personal needs are really easy to distinguish because innate needs are universal in scope and nature. Sehnsucht, this longing for a real home, for that something which will finally give our lives meaning, that connection with someone which will finally satisfy the wandering heart. This is an innate need which can be found in every human. This is what Isaiah is talking about when he says, come and eat that which will truly satisfy and drink that which will thirst. Come and find the heart's true desire? Why seek to be satisfied with that which cannot satisfy? What is Isaiah saying? He is saying that what you and I most want and need cannot be found in any of the usual places where we seek it. No amount of money or stuff or sex or experiences or travel or education or career success will ever fill the void we are trying to fill. At best, all of these can only point us towards that which we really need. As good as any of these things are, they cannot deliver that which we most need and seek. What the human heart most needs is union with God, a relationship with God. St. Augustine says, our hearts are restless until they find their rest in Thee. Only union with God, only a relationship with God can fill the heart's deepest longings. And this is on offer for free according to Isaiah. Now, it must be admitted that for most of us, we will only get a foretaste of it in this life. But even that is more than the world can offer. And even this foretaste is enough to at least let us know that we are on the right path.